John Brighton from Thames 21. I'm a senior programme manager here, and I oversee the majority of our work in North London.
And I'm Aimee from Thames 21. I'm the Salmonsbrook Healthy River Challenge project coordinator, and this project involves creating wetlands and rain gardens in the Salmonsbrook catchment to improve water quality.
We've got a real interest in water quality and trying to improve it, as with Aimee's project, and also we've got a very strong emphasis on local communities and getting them involved and championing their local rivers. So that was really sort of the parallel, bringing these two together. And I think we'd also seen your work in Pickering with the flood alleviation scheme. Thought that, and that is such a powerful thing, bringing communities and also high quality decision support systems together to actually champion change. So I think that was where we were coming from it in terms of those improvements.
And I think also we know that we have a lot of very dedicated and interested volunteers, and they've been taking part in citizen science projects to monitor water quality on the Salmonsbrook and in the Lee Valley. And we knew that they'd be really interested about this project to try and sort of level the playing field a bit between the community and, for example, organisations like the Environment Agency, who obviously very commonly use models. So lots of people were keen to find out more.
Yeah, I think they were very successful, really. I mean, it's always going into meetings with local communities and that, and especially something like this, which is, quite crazy in terms of, what we are trying to do. You would never quite know how well communities would react to it or understand it or grasp it. I mean, especially in terms of this, I'm from a very much non-technical background, so it was a massive learning experience for us. But I think I was really amazed by the positivity. I mean, sometimes 2-hour meetings can drag along, and this one just went so quickly. And I think by the end of it, we were all just astounded by the enthusiasm, and we almost had to be kicked out of the room, which is quite incredible for something like this. So I think the power and the reach of it really is quite special.
I think there was, certainly on my part and perhaps some of the volunteers, there was some trepidation at first about how technical it was going to be, and whether they would actually be able to manage it and get properly involved in the process. But I think that they were pleasantly surprised that it was done sort of on a level that us as non-technical people who have no idea about modelling were able to understand and really get something of value from it. And everyone's very keen for the project to continue in some form.
And I think that's it. Although the model is a massively complex thing to create and really difficult, the actual processes behind it, all the thoughts behind it are actually quite simple, and where they can actually lead is to a really powerful evidence base. So I think that's where we hope to go in future.
I think even if it's just even if it just purely as a way of upskilling people so that they're able to understand the concept of models and understand when they look at an output from a model, that in itself would be very valuable. I think that was good. And something that you said, Katerina, that struck a chord was that about models not being truths. They're tools for decision making, and I think that really helped certainly me to get my head around the process as well.
Yeah, and I think understanding that is quite critical, and I think also really, because this model was really quite a detailed model, understanding and helping prioritise or local understanding of the river. I think that's an incredibly powerful thing, because often dealing with local communities, they can see many things and they can think that they are probably the major issue, when a lot of the times they are a major issue, but sometimes in actual fact it's a different source often which could be some of the issues. And I think this model's got that potential or this process has got the potential to actually inform people to a better level and therefore help them develop their understanding and also how they might then look to enhance their local environment and future.
I think the way that we did the third meeting as well, the handover of the model, having that videoed and having the tutorials broken down with the content is going to be very important and useful for people, so that they're able to refer to that in the future, us, staff and volunteers. So we'll be able to remind ourselves how to use it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've discussed it with the Environment Agency. They're very keen on it, essentially progressing as far as possible. Whether it will quite fit within their funding frameworks is another thing. But I am at the moment working on, a number of ways to get enough money to actually run this programme for a whole year, because I think it really needs that. 3 meetings was good. I think in each catchment it might need 3 or 4 meetings to really generate that detailed level of understanding and interest, and then also the scenario testing and looking actually, not just taking it as a modelled output, but then actually taking it from the model to looking at it on the ground in situ and seeing what's the potential for that. That scenario testing, I think, massively powerful. So yeah, I think it could be, really interesting. And now, I suppose what I'm working on is trying to get it to the stage where we can run a full programme for a year, and then look at the whole Lee Valley in quite fine detail to the point where we can start to almost direct our way forward in the future. Whether that's Thames 21 or looking at the whole landscape and all the stakeholders within that, particularly informing local authorities, informing developments, and I know that outside of our test case, I think it could go significantly further again. So the Greater London Authority are quite interested in this approach. I think it's that concept of working with society, often with complex processes, to help develop a joint way forward for anything, really. So, I'm quite keen that, we don't just see it as, say, the water quality model, but the approach can be taken much further forward to a whole variety of other things. So, I think, yes, hopefully we'll get enough money to do the Lee Valley, and then in future, if it turns out to be successful, we could look at all the catchments which Thames 21 work on, and then really promote it to other similar organisations to do similar work elsewhere. And then in future, or long term in the future, we could look at other areas where this approach could be taken as well.
I think through the CABA groups and the Rivers Trust would be a good way to disseminate it, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there'd be a lot of appetite amongst those groups for this kind of thing. And definitely amongst our volunteers, they all want it to continue. They want us to do something with this. So no pressure, John, finding that money.
Yeah.